Hello. So, we're back with today's reading. And let's just get started. So, ancestors, please come through. Talk to us about what we need to know. What's the lesson for today? What's the lesson? Educate us, school us. All right. Okay. It's a big old rock. Okay, so there's this energy of number one, like what it looks like to have, or what happens when you allow your senses to spread out, and what happens when you allow yourself to become one with the elements or one with your environment, instead of being the individual. If you were part of the constellation instead. And it's like the language of the earth. It's the language of it's the language that extends beyond the audible, beyond the spoken. There's this card that I have in another oracle deck that I didn't bring, but it talks about nonverbal language, and it talks about this indigenous tribe from Australia, and they would communicate with the earth and be able to like draw out, I think, the ley lines, or what they call the ley lines, just through like dancing and moving with the earth and feeling and speaking that language. You know, it's not a language like English or like Spanish or like French, anything that we can hear and we can turn into syllables, but it's a language still. It's the same way as reading these rocks. I'm speaking a language, but it's the intangible, and then I'm able to transfer it over into words and meanings that make sense. But when it comes to reading, I don't hear anything. I mean, I hear like the trees, but I don't hear anything. It's a feeling, and I see, but not really. I'm seeing in a different way. And that's why it's reading, but you're not reading words. You know what I mean? So there's this element of like what happens if you turn off the biggest sense that we tend to use, which is like our gaze. If you turned off your gaze and you were blind, how would you navigate? Like when I was younger, and when most of us were younger, and you would be on your way home and you would fall asleep if your parents had a car, you'd be in the car, you'd be on your way home, and that final turn down the street to know that you're now on the street where your house is. You would know how to get there. I mean, you would know that you're home even before you could see that you were close. You know, it was just a feeling. Somehow you understood where you were in the world, and somehow you understood the vibration of your home and that resonance of even that street, and the fact that it meant it was time to be up. It was that you were there, that you had arrived. It's this sense, it's this language that goes beyond somebody having to tell you or beyond you having to see. It's the same as, you know, if you closed your eyes and you walked through the world, could you get to where you need to go? And it's this sense of, if you turn off one of your senses, what happens? You know, like for the people who have one sense that isn't, that they don't use in this life. So if you are blind, or if you're deaf, or if you're mute, you don't have a certain sense, but it doesn't mean that you're really lacking. You know, maybe you're lacking in that sense, but it doesn't mean that you really have less than others. Something else turns on, and those people actually tend to be able to tap into the magic, the more elusive than the rest of us, because they have to use other ways to navigate. They have to use other ways to understand this world beyond the, you know, the basic scriptures or the basic foundations that we're all given. They use something else. You know, their other senses are heightened, but I also think that they get access to something beyond. And, you know, we all have, you know, the sixth sense, but there's a seventh and there's an eighth. There's an endless amount of senses. It's just about how open you're willing to allowing them to speak to you, you know. And every culture and every group of people, every language understands that sense is very fluid and complex, and that there are many, that it's in abundance, because none of our languages are the same, and you can speak one language and have a completely different feeling than speaking another. And there are words that we have for certain concepts and experiences in other languages that you don't have in maybe your native language. And the more languages you speak, the more your mind opens up. You know, when you're able to ground yourself in the earth, something opens up. There's all these senses that lead to more senses, and there's this idea of spiraling out and allowing yourself to move out of the basic foundation, what you consider to be your core, and recognize that there are many cores, that there are many centers. Just like, you know, it's like, oh, you have your 7 chakras, but then you learn, oh wait, you have all of those chakras also in your ear, and you also have all of those chakras in your hand and in your foot, in your feet. They're everywhere. You have them everywhere. You know, it's not just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You know, it's all over. It's no stagnant location. There's no stagnant location or solid location. Nothing is really fixed. So maybe you can tap into this region when you want to connect with your heart, but you could connect to your heart from any part of your body. Nothing is disconnected, and nothing is purely just for this part or this sense, you know? They all feed into each other. It's just an idea of moving beyond the structure or beyond the decided framework into something outside of yourself, so that you can begin to understand just how complex and dynamic and diverse being really is. Like, what would happen if I had to do this entire reading with my eyes closed? It would take a little longer. You know, when we get to see, or when we get to hear words spoken to us, language is instant gratification. It doesn't, especially once it becomes fluent, you know. But there's something so special to turning off that instant gratification, turning off that fluency, and allowing yourself to constantly have to be in the position of the student. When you're flowing with the wind, you have to catch a wave, grasp onto something, but it's intangible what you're feeding into, what you're becoming a part of, what you're connecting to. And it's not easily understood. You might not ever understand it, but you do become a part of it. You can become a part of it. And you'll begin to speak in a way that doesn't make sense, but makes sense in the deepest resonance. It's like there are times, and I was speaking to my mom about this yesterday, where I wish that kids they weren't taught language, that we were able to just grow up speaking whatever we spoke as babies, because babies have their own language. And as a caretaker, you can tap into that again once your baby's here. We all start saying, and you're saying something, but it's a caretaking language. It's not from the language of the child. It's from, the parent or the guardian. It's an outside perspective. It's more of an observer, of a protector frequency. But there is that innate language that children come in with. And it opens your eyes to a different understanding of the world. It tells you a different story. Everything is so much more alive when you give yourself the opportunity to turn off certain senses or to just go a little bit outside of yourself. It's like the positive balance of disassociation, the positive balance of being outside of your body, the positive balance of numbing certain things. There are negatives and there are positives. This is when you step into the positive. You remove some, you quiet some, and everything else becomes maximized. And language is a beautiful thing, and we taught each other language, and we created language out of curiosity and out of creativity and out of expansion and reaching into source, but ultimately giving ourselves the chance to turn off these self-created forms of communication and tap into the inherent, into the natural, is also a gift. Something that you don't have to learn, but is just, it's indigenous to you. This non-verbal communication, or verbal, but it's not anything that could be defined by our language. There is no match. It's like the angel that said, how could I tell you my name? You wouldn't be able to pronounce my name. It's not like that. It's not easily understood. There's this energy of getting into that vibe, which requires the taking away of some of your senses. You lose some to win more. Sacrifice to gain, in a deeper sense. And everything comes in waves. And it's a bit startling, but you become a part of life. If you ever want to understand what it is to be an earth being, take away those senses, take away language, created language, and take away sight. And I think you begin to tap in to that ancient, ancestral, indigenous earth energy, which is so heavily tied to the cosmos. It's not about being understood. It's not about being defined. It's just simply about feeling. It's about spirit. That's why, when you're singing and you just allow yourself to sing, you don't need to sing a certain song. You don't need to follow a specific melody. You just allow yourself to riff, to freestyle. Or when you're dancing, when you're just talking, That's when you learn how to channel. It's when you learn how to pull from spirit. You're not trying to follow anything. You're just flowing with what your spirit wants to do. That's how you channel. Channel yourself. Most of the time we're not channeling ourselves. We're channeling the paradigms and the perspectives and the languages and the systems that we've been taught. We rarely channel ourselves. Most of the time we're in the observer, and who's driving are these systems and these schools of thought that rule the modern world. But if you were to turn all that off and begin to channel your own energy, channel the energy of your soul, things would look a lot different. And then you come back, then you can go back in. And what a gift it is to be able to give and take away from yourself. As, delaying the gratification. And then you appreciate the other senses just as much. But in order to appreciate some things, sometimes you just gotta let them go. And it can become a daily practice of kind of depriving yourself, just like intermittent fasting or silent retreats, sleeping. All these things, you need to fast from your senses in order to really tap in. And get out of routine. And when you allow yourself to do that, then you begin to step into this energy of trust with what you're able to pick up, what you're able to understand. You challenge yourself. Like, okay, so I'm gonna shuffle some cards. But I'm not gonna look at them. I'm just gonna use my senses and I'm gonna read. And this is basically what it is to read. You see the cards, but you're seeing beyond that. And rather than, and it's like you check in with where your mind goes, because my mind first went to trying to guess what that card is, proving that I know. It's not about knowing, it's about feeling. All right, let's see if they give us any more. Or is that enough? Okay. So it's a lot of cards. And there's this energy of surrendering, That's the card that came through. What came through was Oshun with fearless love and surrender from Iset. But the more this is one of those moments where it's like, even shifting out of the idea of presence, of being present, shifting out of being. It's like when the first sentence in the Bible, in the beginning, I took that and I ran with it and I was like, okay, in the beginning, so that means there's something outside of the beginning. What's happening outside of the beginning? What is that space? it's like tapping into that. It's like a little bit of astral projection energy, but it's this energy of not being, you know, because this is like the ancient ancestral energy of nothingness. What did it feel like to be nothing? To not have any obligation to existence, to a form, to a sense. It's like you just begin to wake up your body. It doesn't matter where the wind blows. It's that song, anyway the wind blows. Where the wind blows, you go, because you have no obligation to be anywhere, be anything, be in any way. It's this freedom that comes with detachment. It's a healthy detachment, though. And part of the lesson is still allowing yourself to stay in that state as the world moves in consciousness. This is not the subconscious, this is the unconscious. Allowing yourself to be unconscious, be not self-aware. As the whole world tells you to be self-aware, as the whole world tells you to be conscious, as all human beings are like, we're different from other animals, we're different from the plants, we're different from everything because we have consciousness, because we're self-aware, and that makes us special, and that makes us different and unique. There are things that make humans unique and special and different, just as there are with all other creatures, but because we don't because we push everything else into a monolith and then make us the individual, we don't know what it is that separates all of the other species from each other. We have to guess. And that guess is usually wrong because it's built from a system of understanding that has nothing to do with the earth. It has nothing to do with other creatures. Nothing to do with life. It has everything to do with understanding and knowing. That has nothing to do with existence. No, that's not true. It has something to do with existence, but we make it the whole thing. And it's only a fraction. So it's like allowing yourself to pull in and out of these stories about yourself and about humanity and about consciousness and about existence. If you allowing yourself to be an unconscious being, stepping out of this idea of the fact that you are always self-aware and choosing not to be, dimming your senses. We have free will. That's part of what makes us like spirit. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to be anything. And you can choose to feed certain parts of yourself and you can choose to deprive. And instead of seeing those actions as punishment or as satisfying, you can see it all as a practice of love, of balancing out the scales in your energy. And with your many states of being, it can't just be one expression of you that leads the whole time. There's many, many versions of you that are ready to take over, you know, guiding you down this path if you allow them. And if you do allow those spirits to come in and take over for a little while, you begin to understand the gift of numbing one thing or allowing one thing to sleep or go to rest or die so another thing can come alive. It's a beautiful thing. It's a transaction, sure. But it's equal payout. It's balancing, it's justice. And you see how it stops becoming about it stops becoming about your intention, and it just starts to be. It flows. I had the intention to read these cards. This is what I was going to do. I was going to try and figure out what, blah, blah, blah. None of that matters when you tap into what's going on with the rest of the planet, how the rest of the world moves without this pressure for consciousness and this pressure for self-awareness. All of these restraints and these expectations and obligations fall away, and instead you just move forward along your path. There's not a whole lot of diversion. Everything feeds into each other, adds onto each other. You get the purest form of the message, of the point of these cards, of anything. That's why I really like sitting in the darkness. I like eating in the darkness. I like being in the dark because I see more clearly. It's like when everybody had masks on, I felt like I was actually able to identify people more quickly. Because all I needed to see was their eyes, and that's how you knew who somebody was, especially if you knew the person. And it gave us insight into each other in a much deeper way. It's when the world shut down and we couldn't go and see each other in person that humanity actually aligned, that we became a collective in a much stronger, more powerful, more connected way than we've been in centuries, thousands of years. All because we lost some of our senses. We lost the ability to see each other in person. We lost the ability to touch each other in person. We lost the ability to speak to each other in person and hear each other. Everything became spaced out in distance. Things became numb. Things became out of body. They became spiritual, or more elusive. And that actually brought us closer than we've ever been before. And now, as we're here together again, it's a completely different experience. And there's shifts. There's been huge shifts because of that deprivation. So like there was loss, there was sacrifice, massive, massive loss. But there were gifts too. And it's strange to acknowledge that. It feels guilty to acknowledge that. It feels, there can be shame attached around acknowledging that. But there's truth there. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging it. This is why rebirth is a thing. It's a gift. That's why rebirth is the thing that it is. That's why alchemy and transmutation are the things that they are. Yes, there is loss. There's always something new. Always. And it's funny because that completely contradicts some of the lessons that I like to teach. To teach. To teach as well. But that's the thing. Nothing is final. And yet they can all exist and all validate each other. Because it's not about being right, and it's not about knowing, and it's not about understanding. It's just about pulling and sharing and building and connecting and trying and just seeing. Let's see where this goes, Having a vision is not having the future in your hands. It's not knowing the future. It's just seeing. Everything you see is a figment of your imagination. What is true, what is real, it's very subjective. It's seeing is about possibility. That's why you visualize. And seeing is elusive. Seeing can be a feeling. I see these in the cards. What I'm saying when I see this is that I feel this. I've got this feeling in my gut. I'm seeing with my gut, seeing with my root. There's eyes in every part of your body. Your heart's in every part of your body. Your root is in every part of your body and outside of your body. Nothing is fixed. Nothing is final. Everything is a shapeshifter. And you come back. And look at that, first of all. So let's look at these cards. So the back of the deck was Celestial Alignment, and that's 333. And all of the cards face down. That's alignment. So even if I was going to see, even if I was trying to see, they all came down face down anyways. They came out face down anyways. I don't need to see. I know what they're trying to tell me. It's not about the image. And what is face down or face up? These are all the same image, but they're not. It's like twins who are really, really identical in the physical appearance. They look the same, but they're not the same. Nothing is the same. No two images are alike. Because everything has layers. It's not just the physical. Okay, so let's see them. Okay, so we have soul forgiveness. And look at that, twins. Shame. Desire. Yamaya, awakening. And 7 sisters, creativity. 5 cards with celestial alignment. Completely different. And then these are the gifts of sight, right? Because then you see an image and it's just, and then you get to see the creativity of the mind and of people to be able to draw out something like this and think of this. This is like a sculpture. And you just get to appreciate. You can read if you want, but you could also just appreciate. And that could be all that you do with your sight, your physical sight. And that's more than enough. So I feel like that's the reading for today. I mean, yeah, that's the reading and that's the lesson for today. Oh, look, a set. Level up, level up, level up, level up, level up. I never noticed that before. And there's Oshuni Uni. And it's also important to keep in mind that, like, it's the things that come to mind first are perhaps the things that you desire the most. I said fearless love, Ashun, and Iset, surrender. Perhaps that's what I desire. And that's why it came out first. Shut the fuck up. It's Oshun. Sweet success. She's like, I know you're calling on me. I'm here. I'm here, girl. Iset. And wheat is connected to this show I've been seeing, Outer Banks. And like this ancient inheritance, this ancestral inheritance for Black descendants of ancestors who survived slavery. And on the Aset oracle cards, or Isis, Aset, there's this wheat symbol, and it's connected to ancient Egypt. And there's that same symbol attached to this like ancient inheritance, ancestral inheritance of this Black man who freed himself, who escaped enslavement, freed himself, and then and because he like crashed on this boat with a bunch of other white people and Spanish people, and then survived and found this gold and this cross, and then used all of that to free his people. But he died trying to bury his wife. He died from an attack. This is a fictional show, but nothing is really fiction, you know? And I just saw the wheat and I saw the symbol yesterday and I made a connection. I'm gonna think about it more, but it's just something that came to mind. I have to think about it some more. I have to ponder, you know? I've got to ponder it. It's like the end of these cycles of seeing. It's not about seeing anymore. There's nothing left to see. There's nothing left to know. What's going on in the unknown? Oshun, I'm gonna read her card. Mostly because I'm just like, not Oshun coming out when I was like, Oshun, 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 Oshun. We have to read her now. Oshun, sweet success, giving birth to your own prosperity, feminine leadership. Oshun, pronounced Oshun, is the mother of the Nigerian Yoruba people, and her name means the source. She's an Orisha, a spiritual protector sent by the Supreme Creator, Olodumare. This beloved goddess holds the keys to fertility, success, and prosperity. Women pray to her to help them get pregnant. A patron saint of the Osun River, Oshun's sweet, flowing waters can cure illness, grant wishes, and confer protection to women leaders. Her colors are yellow and amber. Some of her symbols are brass bracelets, honey, peacocks, sunflowers, and pumpkins. Are you secretly afraid of being richly rewarded and successful? Were you taught that life and work are struggles to be endured? Is it difficult for you to equate spiritual service with material wealth and social status? You've been working hard for a long time, and Oshun, Yoruba goddess of creation, has been watching you. She sees your efforts and knows what it takes to juggle countless demands alongside creating meaningful work. You're a sacred feminine creator. You're a sacred feminine creator in tune with the source of all things, says Oshun. The time has come for your creations to be birthed with ease. Just as I gave birth to the first people on earth, she declares, leading you to a river gushing with the energy of prosperity. Release thoughts of lack into Oshun's flowing waters. It's important that you do this as the universe is moving you into positions of leadership. Allow yourself to be richly resourced and wildly successful in all of your creations. Old beliefs about scarcity and patterns of undervaluing your time and energy are being washed away by Oshun's river. Wealth in all forms flows to you. Claim your throne of divine feminine influence and lead with love. Additional meanings. What you're inquiring about will be successful. A promotion or leadership position is within reach. Increase what you charge for your services. Work on limiting beliefs about money. This is a positive message about pregnancy or adoption. Invocation. My creations generate rich rewards. I accept sweet success. Allow Oshun to guide you into the sweet, sweet night. Look at her. Okay. Thanks, Oshun. We'll see y'all later.